Hey everyone, I'm sure you have been following all of the crazy news of all kinds of drama, and I don't mean the US election. WordPress has been going through a thing for a little bit, and it has impacted plugin authors directly. The plugin directory has become kind of ground zero for a lot of really interesting work that's happening. And I think that we're going to have a really good conversation about that. Plugin authors are making different choices, different ways to serve their free plugins, and different ways to get people to be aware of their offerings. So we want to talk about that. And if you're a plugin author, this is all for you. Welcome. This is WP Product Talk, a place where every week we bring you insights, product marketing, business management and growth, customer experience, product development, and more. It's your go-to podcast for WordPress product owners by WordPress product owners. And now, enjoy the show. Welcome, everyone.
Hey, everyone. It's Amber from Equalize Digital.
And Matt
and
from
Katie
Stellar
Keith
WP.
from, sorry.
We're so good at this. Sorry.
We don't always
Matt from,
come on together.
Zach from
I
Gravity
know.
Kit.
There we go. We could do it.
And Katie Keith from Bounty Plugins.
And today
Nice.
we are going to be talking about the WordPress.org directory and how WordPress product owners or product leaders should be thinking about that as part of their marketing or distribution strategies. And we have a surprise guest that we are going to bring on today as well. It is Jack.
Welcome,
Hey guys,
Jack.
how's it going?
Glad you're here.
Yeah, Jack, could you please introduce yourself? What do you do?
Hi, I'm Jack Arturo. I'm the founder of Very Good Plugins. I'm a WordPress plugin developer, and I've been working in WordPress for about 12 years.
Nice. And tell us a little bit about why we wanted you on this conversation today.
I had a viral tweet a few weeks ago. So basically, I've kind of been frustrated with Matt Mullenweg and Automatic for quite a while, and been feeling like the future of our business has been sort of tenuous because of some decisions that they've made. And the recent drama starting after WordCamp US kind of made me want to do something about it. And for a long time, I had been really bothered by the fact that WordPress.com had copied the public repo of plugins from WordPress.org. And in many cases for our plugin, the .com listing was showing up in search results above the free listing. And the major problem with this was, unlike the free.org repo, if somebody clicked through the .com listing, they couldn't obviously download the plugin for free. There's a button that says get started, and then this signs you up to WordPress.com's premium hosting. So it's confusing, and we would occasionally get customers who would say, contact our premium support, for example, and say, well, yeah, I signed up for this, I paid for it, you need to help me. I'm like, well, no, you actually paid Automatic for VIP hosting, and then they gave you our free plugin as part of that package. But you haven't paid us anything. You're still using our free software, which is just community support. So this has just sort of been an irritant for a little over a year, and just sort of thinking in the back of my mind, like, what could we sort of reliably do to take back a little bit of control from that and Automatic? And because we own the trademarks to WP Fusion, our code is open source and anybody can copy it and do what they want with it, but we do own the trademark, and we can, as Matt says, you have to defend your trademarks. So we can legally require websites to take down any listing that displays our trademark in a misleading way. And I thought this was a pretty clear case of this, showing our brand alongside a get started button that then gets you to buy something from another company. So so we sent a cease and desist letter to Automatic saying that they were infringing our trademark, asking them to take the listing down. And 5 days later, the legal counsel wrote back and said they've done it. They didn't agree with our trademark infringement claim, but of course they would have to say that, otherwise everybody else is going to do the same thing. But they made whatever engineering changes were required. As far as I know, we're the only plugin who's been removed from the .com repository, but still exists on the free repository. So that was cool. So they did it, and I'm hoping that other plugin authors will do the same thing. And if we can sort of take back some ownership of our brands and our code, and try to keep the free.org repo the central place for distribution, maybe that will take away a little bit of the power of Automatic. A big move, but it's the only thing we could kind of, it's the only action we could take with guaranteed success. So that's what we did.
Yeah.
I'm curious. It is interesting to hear that there were customers of WordPress.com who were confused and thought that you had received like some amount of what they were paying for their hosting. Do you have any way of even knowing what percent of your free users came via WordPress.com or WordPress.org, or any way of tracking that currently to know, like, did it hurt you to leave WordPress.com?
I don't have any way of knowing for sure. We can track when somebody clicks a link from the free plugin and then comes through and purchases from us. But that link is the same regardless of where they are hosting the plugin. Anecdotally, because I still do a lot of support with customers, very, very few use WordPress.com. It wasn't until maybe in the last 2 years that you could even run custom plugins on WordPress.com. So we had for the longest time, our website just said it doesn't work on WordPress.com. And also keep in mind, we started out as a premium only plugin. So we have something like 40,000 sites using the premium plugin and only 5,000 using the free one. So I think the percentage of people using it on .com is probably very low.
Yeah, interesting. One more question, and then I want to paint a little bit of the broader context of what we're trying to talk about today. Have you done other cease and desists, like maybe at like any of those, GPL club type sites or things like that? Have you thought about doing that kind of thing before?
No, this is the first one, and it made me a little bit nervous because I mean, we've all seen Matt like personally retaliate against all sorts of people for even just using an emoji reaction in Slack. So I was assuming I would get banned and blocked from everything and maybe taken down from .org. But nothing got blocked on Twitter. So I don't know, either he hasn't noticed me or he's watching very closely everything I say. I'm not sure which one's worse. But no, this was the first one, and I don't really have any problem with the GPL clubs. I have a subscription myself because plugins, and it's just too much work to contact every individual to copy.
Yeah.
They offer our code under the spirit of the GPL. We have taken some steps to make it very difficult to get premium plugins that are available on the GPL sites. Are usually a couple months out of date, and I think of them as a lead source. Like, customers try it out for free, something's broken, they contact us, and then we say, hey, that's not a valid license key, would you like a discount to sign up for real? So no, this was just really some control back from Automatic. I really can't stand them. I can't stand that, and this felt like something we could do.
Got it. That makes sense. Cool. So let's talk a little bit about broader context of what we're talking about today. Essentially, like I said in the intro, plugin authors are going to start making different types of decisions for a couple different reasons. We had several different incidents happen that impact plugin authors on the plugin directory on WordPress.org. The very, very first one was when a surprise checkbox showed up on WordPress.org, where there's lots of places where you can read all about these things. So I'm not going to go in like crazy detail or anything, but there is a checkbox that says, I am not affiliated with WP Engine in any way. And when people asked follow-up questions about like, what does this mean? How would you interpret this? The answer that we got through WordPress Slack was essentially consult your lawyer. which was not very encouraging. It definitely added to the scare factor of what that checkbox meant. And so there was a lot of plugin authors who were like, I don't feel comfortable logging into WordPress.org right now, which of course negatively impacts their ability to provide free support for their free plugins and things like that. So the next one was that WP Engine was blocked from being able to access WordPress.org. All of their customer sites were disabled from accessing WordPress.org. And then all of the people who were owners of the advanced custom fields plugin specifically, they were also banned from WordPress.org, meaning they were not able to log in and commit changes to that plugin or anything like that. And then shortly after that, Matt and Automatic decided that they would, what they said is fork that plugin and call it Secure Custom Fields instead. So they took that repository as their own and called it Secure Custom Fields. There's been a lot of conversation about whether or not that actually constitutes a legitimate fork or not. But that is what happened. And I think that was an indicator to a lot of plugin authors of essentially, I didn't know that that was in the realm of possibility. I'm hosting my plugin on this place and this event happened. And if it could happen to them, could it happen to me? That's a little bit of kind of the shock and awe feeling that a lot of plugin authors had in the wake of that. Then there was also the situation in which people started to respond, like Jack, in a different way, not necessarily specifically about .org. He was trying to emphasize his presence on .org and lessen the influence of .com specifically. The folks at Paid Memberships Pro, they actually removed their free version from WordPress.org and then were approached by Matt Mullenweg, who said I could take over that repo as well in a way that was like, you know, if you leave here, I might do something like that. That's how it's been reported in different places. The repository email newsletter actually reported on that, saw DM conversations with Jason Coleman and Matt Mullenweg. That's how that's been reported to date. So even those who have made a choice to leave the plugin directory have kind of had some pushback there as well. So what are plugin authors to do in light of all of these things? Is .org, is the plugin directory a safe space to continue to host your plugin? It, of course, is the still the preeminent, most obvious, and biggest funnel. If you have a freemium plugin offering in one way or another, that's the best place to get free users. And nothing has changed about that in particular, except for the risks that were not there previously. So that's how I'm seeing context. Did I miss something?
Yeah, before we move on, I want to clarify what you mean by they forked advanced custom fields, because a fork, normally when you take a plugin and you fork it, you are supposed to rename the plugin, which they did. But when you fork a plugin and you add it to WordPress.org, you get a new URL. You start from
Yeah.
scratch with your user base. You have no reviews or ratings that have been left. But that's not what they did. They took over Advanced Custom Fields WordPress plugin directory listing, and they kept all the reviews. They kept all the install base, and then they've updated the code. That all that code goes to the Advanced Custom Fields users. That they aren't starting from scratch. They took over the code base in a way that isn't, in my mind, a fork.
Yeah, and if you had auto updates enabled, then overnight you went from having advanced custom fields to having secure custom fields, which literally belongs to a different company.
Yes. So in my mind, they stole it. They didn't just fork it.
You know what I think is interesting, though? We have Jack here. I wonder if this is a oversight or mistake on the original developer of Advanced Custom Fields part of not trademarking Advanced Custom Fields, because if And maybe there is one and they just haven't done anything about it. But my assumption is if there's a trademark on that, then they could not have kept the URL, or there could be a cease and desist submitted on the URL because that is a trademarked term with regards to like custom field plugin software or whatever the trademark would cover, right? And so
there is a trademark. It's still pending, but I believe that pending trademarks are enforceable and it does exist. So I'm surprised that hasn't been made more explicit in the latest legal paperwork.
Yeah. So is it one of the first takeaways for all plugin developers? You should trademark the name of your product if you have not done so already.
And
You
one
should
of
absolutely trademark
listener
ASAP.
Alan Fuller writes, one issue is that we don't all have trademarks. In my case, my name was deemed too generic, and I've had that same issue as well. I don't know I don't know what that means legally, but I do know that it doesn't prevent you from trying to have them take it off of WordPress.com.
Yeah.
And you can still copyright your logo.
Right.
Yeah. So what we did, because our product accessibility checker does the same thing. It's too generic. We wouldn't be able to trademark it. But the company name Equalize Digital is trademarked. And originally when we launched our product, it was just accessibility checker by Equalize. Well, I mean, we submitted just as accessibility checker, so the URL would just be accessibility checker. So I guess we'd be not good if we lost our URL. And then we had accessibility checker by Equalize Digital, but then we realized that this whole like uniqueness and brand recognition, like it's not great to have a abstract name or a not, like a generic name for your product. And so we switched it, and Equalize Digital is always at the front when we talk about it. People shorten it to accessibility checker all the time, but the full name of the product does include our trademark. And we've been doing a lot just on company name recognition. So maybe that's something that plugin authors, if they haven't thought about that, and I don't remember off the top of my head what Alan's product name is, but like maybe that is something to think about, is how can you make the name of your product trademarkable?
And Alan Jack brings up a good point that even if your name isn't trademarkable, your digital appearances are and your graphics and stuff. So your plugin header that WordPress.com is also displaying, that's you have copyright over that, and you can file a copyright claim on that.
Yeah. I think another important context that came out through all of these conversations is that WordPress.org literally belongs to Matt Mullenweg, the person, not to the WordPress Foundation, not to Automatic, but Matt Mullenweg, the person. In many ways, that to me changed the nature of the conversation a lot. Like I just imagined, like, what if I had mattcromwell.com and it was hosting like all these bajillions of things, and I just was like, I'm just going to kick Zach off because Zach was a jerk to me yesterday. And I could do that. Like, it's my
product
website.
talk?
Like, I'm just saying, like, in many ways, like, yeah, you're right. It's not a legitimate fork. Yeah, absolutely. There are trademarked names and images on there. But at the same time, in many ways, we all volunteered those things onto some guy's personal website. I'm not defending or justifying, but I'm just saying it really colored the nature of the conversation in many ways. And the thing that jumped out to me immediately was like, I really wish that would have been a lot more upfront and center in like even like the plugin submission process. Like there's got to be some sort of terms and conditions that names Matt Mullenweg personally instead of Automatic or Foundation or things like that. I had always heard people say, well, .org belongs to Matt. I've heard people say that a lot in the past. I didn't realize that really actually meant Matt the person and not Matt Automatic. And that to me changes things a little bit. I don't know if that changes things for you all in your mind, but I don't know.
Yeah, what
Jack,
do you think, Jack?
Yeah, it changed a lot for me. Of course, I got started working with Infusionsoft and then ClickFunnels and these like, Clayton Mask and Russell Brunson and these sort of tech bro founder types who control their whole ecosystem. And it was terrifying. Like you make some money, but they can just kick you out anytime they dislike you. And I liked WordPress as a sort of democratic, egalitarian, open commons kind of thing. And I guess like if I felt like Matt was running the show, it felt like he was giving everybody a fair chance. So I didn't look too closely at it. But yeah, now that when you realize Matt can change anything about not only WordPress.org, but really WordPress the software if he wanted to. If he decided that Zach's premium plugins, he didn't like Zach anymore, he could make some change to WordPress core and boot Zach out or break his code. It's really all up to Matt. So I think it's terrifying. Yeah, it really changed a lot in my mind.
Yeah, and same here. And we're actually in the process of developing a new product, and we've been trying to figure out where to release this product. And one of the considerations that we've had for Gravity Kit as well is that Google has updated their algorithm majorly, so that they're not a reliable partner. And doing SEO is time that you can spend developing your product and supporting customers. But so we were looking at WordPress.org as a hedge against the changes that Google was making, and then Matt has come in and made WordPress.org unreliable as a distribution platform. So we are currently wondering, well, how do we distribute this software in a way that can reach the most people? And recently we've come down on the side of distributing it for free on our own website instead of relying on WordPress.org. And I might change my mind on this because I really don't want to rely on Google. And Google has a monopoly on search, and WordPress.org has a monopoly on WordPress. And that is a funny thing to say, but it also has come up recently in things like the Android lawsuits in the EU, and that Android had, like, that Google has a monopoly over distribution for an open source platform of Android. I would argue it's the same situation with WordPress.org and Matt and Automatic having a monopoly over WordPress.
We're going to get back to like handing out flyers on corners stages with Amber. You had a comment.
Again.
Yeah, well, I actually wanted to see what Katie thought, because I know Katie has a lot of different plugins, and I don't know what your breakdown is, like how many you have on .org, and I'm curious how you've thought about this, like staying on .org or not, or putting new products on .org.
Yeah, I'm less concerned than many people because we have never been dependent on it as our main distribution channel. So Zach just spoke about not being too reliant on Google, not being too reliant on WordPress.org. I'd say, yeah, that's the key, is having multiple distribution channels so that if one is less predictable than you thought, then that's okay. So at Barn 2, most of our products are premium only. And we do have a few free plugins, several of which we actually introduced after the premium plugin was already successful, simply as a way of getting additional users. And so we do track quite a few sales through them, but it's a really small proportion of our direct sales because we're good at YouTube marketing, we're good at organic SEO, and we are quite confident in getting our own users through those other channels. So I'm perfectly happy to still have my plugins on .org, because if they were suddenly taken off or something, it wouldn't be the end of the world.
Yeah, that's sort of where we landed as well. Like, we're comfortable with staying on .org. I think it's helpful for us to be there. That's the only place right now we're collecting reviews. I will say we've had a conversation about, should we collect reviews like on Trustpilot or G2 or something, because we ask everyone to go write a review for us on .org. And which maybe there might be arguments about that even beyond .org, just to distribute for broader visibility of reviews, or maybe people don't have a WordPress.org profile because a lot of our customers maybe don't have one, and they'd have to have that to write a review there. But we've kind of been like, we allow people to, we use EDD to also allow people to download the free version of our plugin off our website. And most of our marketing goes to our website to get either free or paid, because I want people to see it all in a pricing table and compared. So I'm not especially worried about losing it as a marketing channel. But I think it's helpful to be there, and so I wouldn't leave.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to highlight some of the comments coming in, and folks, if you're here listening in, bring in your comments, because we'd love to get you part of the conversation as well. Corey Moss, he's a great plugin author, several products on WordPress.org. He says, I definitely assumed foolishly that it was all on the up and owned by the foundation, meaning the WordPress.org was, which I also foolishly assumed was being used correctly to own all of the main WP assets, meaning that by uploading his GPL plugins to WordPress.org, that any of the GPL rights were being shared with the foundation, not as Matt Mullenweg personally. Yeah, and that is part of the confusion I think a lot of folks were having, or the realization a lot of folks had through kind of the due diligence of the conversations that were happening in the public between WP Engine and Matt continually. So
some other people have talked about, Katie and Amber, I believe, have talked about that it's kind of low risk putting your plugin on .org, because if it goes away, well, then you can still somehow keep the people that are using your product, at least. That's better than nothing. But it's also a big item in the SWOT analysis when you talk about opportunities and threats. The threat is that the leader of the software that you are based on has a personal vendetta against you and can take away a whole distribution channel with no warning and just by fiat, even though it's an open source project. So I think by Matt doing what he did, it really changed the calculations that all product owners have to take when it talks about building on WordPress in the first place. Forget the plugin directory. Is this software we want to build on? I'd say Matt has done a huge disservice to the platform. But also, is the plugin directory safe? And do I, as a business, want to invest in the plugin directory, considering that that's benefiting an individual in a way that I might not want to invest in?
I do want to say that, like, that risk was maybe never so keenly felt in the WordPress space, but that is a risk with ever you distribute on a marketplace of any kind. Apple has done stuff to their podcasters. Google does stuff to their app owners. And, we don't always get a lot of visibility about whether or not it's for vindictive reasons or not. What you said, Zach, is totally true. I'm just saying it's also not unique to WordPress. Specifically, anytime we go to marketplaces. Envato was all caught up in all kinds of drama in the past with different plugin authors and theme authors. That's kind of the nature of marketplace stuff. We never have had to address it in a way that felt like the CEO, the dictator for life, was DMing individual authors along the way. That does feel like a different level for sure.
We had already had in plans to have some features that were independent of the plugin, almost SaaS-like features, the plugin would still have an option where it would just function as a plugin, but there'd be other things that you would have to do on a separate website because of requests of our customers that are like, we want to see all of our sites all together, or be able to get different reports and things that it just doesn't make sense to run in a WordPress environment. So I think for us that, like, some of the risk maybe that people have seen, like, oh, could my plugin get taken away from me? We haven't felt that as much because we already have some of this in the works where we were already building some features that are separate from the plugin. We've had a lot of requests in higher ed to have a Drupal version, which for us, it's like, well, let's just, kind of like Yoast did. They made a SaaS that could scan Shopify, right? And so I think maybe thinking about that bigger, like, can your product go beyond WordPress or be something separate from what's in the free plugin? If there's only so much that can be taken away from you. But Jack, you probably have thoughts that you want to share also.
I was just going to share that I was surprised to learn recently that as a Shopify app developer, you actually retain full commercial copyright to your app. Shopify can't take it from you. They can create a competitor. But I was kind of laughing a bit because it means, in a way, like the Shopify app directory is safer to launch on than the open source WordPress.org directory.
That is really interesting. I did not know that.
This is actually a reason why we're not on the WooCommerce marketplace, because since most of my plugins are WooCommerce, that's a natural place and that's premium only. But if you go through their terms and conditions, they talk about the ability to take over your plugin and fork it if you ever try to remove it in the future. And they have significantly improved their terms over the last couple of years, and they're far more author friendly than they used to. But that one is still in there. And they've given me some verbal reassurances that they wouldn't just do that. But given what has happened with ACF, given the threats made against Paid Memberships Pro, which we should probably talk about a bit more, I am more scared now that they would just take my plugins. Like, say I did a trial for a few months on the WooCommerce marketplace, didn't sell very well, so I would remove it. Well, they can just take my plugin. And I know it's GPL and all that, but this goes a bit beyond that.
Yeah. Peter Ingersoll in the comments here echoing what you're saying here. How scary must it be that Matt Mullenweg Automatic could and now might just fork your livelihood?
True.
That's putting it very directly, I think. Yeah. So let's talk about Paid Memberships Pro and the route that they have gone in particular. They actually said in an announcement that they had already planned for a long time to start hosting their free plugin off of WordPress.org for a variety of reasons, but partially because of the risk that .org had innately by itself. And so this was a consideration for them long before any of the WordPress engine, I almost said, the WP engine stuff actually flared up in the first place. But then once it did flare up, then they were like, okay, let's pull this trigger right now. And they are hosting the plugin now on their website and serving updates there. And that's a choice that they made. I've actually had some fun conversations with Alex Denning in the past about the different benefits to freemium model and driving traffic to pro only offerings, and how challenging that is from a marketing perspective versus having the natural funnel that WordPress.org is for so many people. Jason and Kim at Paid Memberships Pro obviously felt that they were in a spot where they can afford to do direct to market marketing and didn't need the marketplace of WordPress.org in order to continue to be successful with their product. I think that's really fascinating and interesting. So that's a choice that plugin authors are making. Zach, what do you think about that?
Yeah, and this connects nicely with the question that Jeff Chandler has in the chat, which is, so the question is, what is a new plugin author to do if they don't want to use the official directory? That's a good question. One of the things that you learn is you want to own your distribution, and whether or not that's it used to be that we would just put free plugins on .org and leave it alone. Recently, we've been doing free and having a free version on our own website. I think that the trend is going to be having distribution through your own website. Now, that leads to the question, how are you going to get found? And I think that is going to be the question that people need to solve. And I feel like the answer is going to go through hosts more and more, where the hosts are going to have some sort of partnership programs that are going to be way more active than they have been, where you will have to reach out to the hosts, connect to them, have your plugin as a recommended solution for whatever your plugin does. I feel like that might be a direction that WordPress goes as we get more fractured due to the .org no longer being the reliable distribution partner that it is. Because even if you're on .org, you're not on WordPress, or you're not on WP Engine, not WordPress Engine.
I want to caveat that just a little bit, because there's always, in the scope of these conversations as product owners, there's always this sense in which like we feel a certain pressure in a way that like 98% of all of our users don't. So I want to caveat that just a little bit. Like the WordPress.org is not reliable anymore. I don't feel like I can say that with authority. I feel like there are some new risks in hosting there for sure that people should be aware of and make their own choices. But I don't know that I personally can say that authoritatively that it is not the de facto place. There's just, millions and millions and millions of people who are still downloading their plugins there every single day right now. That's I just want to caveat that just a little bit.
I wouldn't disagree with that, but I also think that the stability of the marketplace has changed fundamentally.
I mean, the issue of fracturing of the general marketplace, and what you're saying is like if we have to end up going through hosts for our plugins, that's kind of a scary reality. Like because I'm on Bluehost, I get secure hosted fields, and because I'm on WP Engine, I get advanced custom fields, and they're like the same thing, but they're not the same thing. And I don't even know that secure custom fields exists if I'm on WP Engine, and vice versa. Like that's a weird siloed place. And I personally don't also love the idea that I only know about plugins because of my web host. That I don't feel that that's actually in the best interest of the WordPress ecosystem overall. I love the benefits that .org has traditionally given of letting plugin authors go direct to market as much as possible. And, I will say, though, that traditionally, so many plugin founders are developers first and foremost, and marketing is like their Achilles heel. So going like direct to users only tends to not be a high success rate. I'm looking at some of the exceptions to that. Katie and Jack in particular are really good at going direct to customers. There's that. That's a complicated, like needly type of subject for sure.
I think that the hosting partnership, that's like the holy grail, right? I'll say right now, like we've been in conversations with multiple hosts about, can you on a certain plan auto install our free plugin, right? We've been trying really hard for multiple years. Hasn't happened yet. Had some really great conversations. Maybe it's on the path to happening, but it has. So I don't know if I think that is the total solution. And I did just see Brian Gardner pop into the chat, and I would really be curious if he could share something with us related to how WP Engine giving Genesis themes away has helped. I mean, Genesis is kind of gone now. Sorry, Brian. But like in the beginning, did that help with distribution, or did it not? Like I don't actually know. But what I think might be interesting, and I think Jack, you could speak to this, and Zach also, is partnering with other plugins that serve the same audience. So like Jack, obviously there's a lot of, or like CRMs or whatever, like other software that you could co-market with. And Zach, of course, a lot of your stuff works with Gravity Forms, which is also interesting because you're in their directory, and I have no idea what their rules are for being in their directory. But I feel like that's another thing that maybe product owners need to find these plugins or others or themes or whatever that work either in tandem or connect very clearly with your product, and almost build a marketing coalition or a marketing engine where you can co-market together. And I don't know, Jack, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, not every plugin can go the integrations route, but we had a lot of success with that. Obviously, I think it wasn't until 6 or 7 years into WP Fusion that we even released a version for free. Still, I think that
customers, sorry to interrupt, but how were you getting customers before you had a free version?
Luck, mostly just luck. Good timing.
SEO,
but I mean,
like blog posts?
SEO, and also like you were describing, like Gravity Forms was aware of us and would send customers to us. HubSpot was aware of us. We were listed long before we were listed on WordPress.org. We were listed in the Infusionsoft marketplace and the ActiveCampaign marketplace. And then for plugins that we integrate with, we would try to get them to list compatibility on their websites. We have a new customer survey that goes out after someone purchases to try to get a sense of which of our marketing channels are working. And in the last 3 years, no one has ever selected the option for WordPress.org search. So I think it's nice for us to be able to show that we have a few thousand users using it, and I also think it's really nice to have a independent place to have reviews, but there are other options for that. But I don't know of anybody who's recently just sort of released a plugin onto the repo and suddenly gotten users from it. There's so many on there, and it's not really an organic marketing channel. I don't think it's as indispensable as some people think it is.
So someone who had access to plugin search results they worked at a hosting company, I asked them this. I was like, can you tell me if people are searching for the name of my product or like whatever? And they looked at the data for all of the searches that happen in dashboard on websites that host there. And what they said to me was, no, but it's not just that, because then they went and looked and they're like, people also don't search for like SEO plugin. They go and search the name of the plugin they already want to install, like Yoast or Rank Math or whatever. And their takeaway from this is that people go to Google to try and figure out what plugin to use. Yeah. And then once they have figured out the plugin, then they will go get it off of .org maybe, or out of their website. They're not using WordPress.org or WordPress plugin directory for discovery of plugins.
Which is goes back to your point about like that's why it's a good idea to get on G2 or Trustpilot or Capterra, because that is the spot where discovery happens for that.
But then when you go on these platforms like G2, underneath your product it says alternatives to your product.
Yeah.
So you don't own that platform either.
No,
but it's saying that under other products too.
The same thing with .org, you know, like you search SEO and it's like, well, here's all my competitors here. I hope I show up here. So.
Yeah, I think as a marketer, you need to be in as many places as possible, and we can't assume that all users are the same. I actually installed a plugin from searching on WordPress.org yesterday. Well, actually, it was plugins add new search, but that's the same thing. And I tend to do that when I know that I want a free, very simple plugin. I needed a maintenance mode plugin, so I knew I wasn't going to pay or spend hours researching. I just needed something to do the job. And I'm sure there are many other use cases where people do find plugins on .org. So I'd say it is important to be there if that fits with your overall strategy, but you should absolutely not just be there. You should do your own direct marketing. You should be on hosts if you can. I know that's the holy grail, like Amber said, and no one's nailed it yet, but they must one day. Everyone's been trying for so long. That will become more of a thing. You should be on other directories. You should be everywhere you can. And WordPress.org for some people might be one of those places.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
I can shout out that if you want more marketing advice, you should go to wpproducttalk.com, because we have had tons of episodes that talk about this, and there are a lot of really good episodes that can do that. And I just wanted to say that before we shift back to
I love it. We
in fact we did one for Envato sellers with Vova Feldman about people that previously used the Envato marketplace. What do they do now that's declining? Actually, that's really relevant for people that were previously reliant on WordPress.org and need to find other ways to market.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So we talked about a few different things. We talked about alternative directories a bit. We talked about going pro. We talked about risks and what might happen if you leave. And I do want to, again, caveat just a little bit of all of these things. I do think in many ways, this incident that we've been watching unfold in public is very exceptional. I have a really, really hard time imagining that something with the significance of Mullenweg versus WP Engine, or in many ways Mullenweg versus Silver Lake, the private equity firm behind WP Engine, that something like that would resurface again and so greatly impact different plugin authors. And I think that's also really important to acknowledge, because it's not as if we're saying that that like this kind of thing is happening everywhere all the time to all kinds of plugin authors. This is not like a big, giant, vast issue. But what changed the nature of that conversation was like, we could say, oh, it's isolated to just like this group of people, and like, oh man, that really super sucks for all the WP Engine folks and the WP Engine plugins, but doesn't impact me. I think some of us maybe felt that way, thought that way, until Paid Memberships Pro was like, okay, we're going to get out. And then it was like, oh no, there's some retribution there. That changed the tone of the whole situation again, in many ways. So I think it is really important for us to start really talking more clearly about how does this whole thing impact new plugin authors and what new folks are going to be doing going forward. I'll just say real quick, and I want to hear from other folks, that my first inclination is just simply that there's going to be a whole lot more folks who do pro only. Honestly, in the WordPress space, there haven't been a lot of super highly successful pro only products. The biggest one that stands out in my mind has been Gravity Forms, who has been pro only since day one for a really long time. But you know what's really interesting? Shortly before WordCamp US, they shipped a new free SMTP plugin to .org, specifically for lead gen purposes. So they saw the value of .org, even for them who have been pro only for, I don't know, 12 years, 10, 14 years. They've been around a long time. So I think we'll start to see a bigger rise in that kind of product model, business model. But that means that if you are a developer founder and you're like, I'm really good at code and I love to build stuff, your first order of business is partnering up with a marketer. Like, you can't just build something awesome and get on .org and be successful. Like, build something awesome, build a website, and immediately have sales. It's just not in the cards at all. So that's my short take. Actually, we haven't heard a ton from Katie, so I'd love to hear, Katie, what's your take? Like, how is this going to impact new plugin authors going forward?
Yeah, it's an interesting dilemma for new plugin authors because they need that distribution. And I would actually say don't be too scared of .org. I mean, obviously, try not to piss off Matt Mullenweg if you're going to list a plugin on there, but no platform's perfect. There's the whole open source thing, and some people say you shouldn't be listing on proprietary platforms if you're using things that aren't WordPress. So there's always a risk with every kind of platform that you might risk on, and there are risks with .org, but you've got to balance that against the audience that you get as a result of that, which you can't replicate simply by having your plugin on your own website, even if it's free. So I'd say, yes, put it on .org if freemium is part of your ideal business model, but think about ways to protect yourself. I love what Amber said earlier about having a SaaS component to your product, your free product. And in fact, we've done, I think, 2 previous episodes of WP Product Talk about SaaSifying a WordPress product. Because if there is something which has to call home in order for it to work in that way, I mean, I think WP Fusion does that as well, in some sense. So people can't just fork it and take it over. It simply wouldn't work. So there are clever things you can do to have your cake and eat it and continue getting those benefits of being on .org.
Yeah, and I also think that .org remains a great distribution option, and there's lots of value provided by .org, including reviews and having a support forum, and that is why it's been so important in the past. But I think more now than ever, it's important to own your customer. And what do I mean by that? I mean, if you have a plugin on .org, you need to market inside your plugin and convert your users to being your users, your customers, not Matt Mullenweg's and WordPress.org's customers. And that means, unfortunately, adding email sign-up forms inside your plugin, maybe adding banners that let people know, like, sign up here, get additional value from your plugin by subscribing to your newsletter list. You need to have your customers' email. Otherwise, you don't own the customer. Matt Mullenweg does.
You know what? That's actually a good point, because another really interesting model in the freemium space is not freemium necessarily, but free and pro, meaning that when you install the pro plugin, it uninstalls the free one. There's not a lot of folks who do that. Solid Security actually is one of them. Solid Security, you install the pro version, it automatically uninstalls the free plugin, and now you only have the pro one. And what that means is that negatively impacts your active install count for sure, but at the same time, as soon as they've installed that pro version, it's just you and you're running your updates from your own website. And then you really are just using .org as a free tool. Like they're full featured free plugins still. But then once you get that sale, then you own that customer now, in a way that you can't if you have a free with a pro add-on, or a free with a whole bunch of add-ons. So that's also maybe a model that might crop up a lot more right now. It's a good point. Amber, what about you?
About owning customers? I mean,
No, about how do you think all of this impacts what plugin authors
new
will
plugin
choose to
authors.
do? What are plugin authors going to choose when they're brand new and they're like, should I go on .org, yes or no, and blah blah blah?
I don't know. It's hard because while this definitely is stretching, we're starting to see more articles outside of just WordPress news sites. I still feel like, I'm not sure, like a year from now, it might all be resolved or whatever. And somebody who is brand new to plugin development and wasn't around, they might just launch on WordPress.org because they want. I mean, that's kind of been our approach with a lot of this, is like, let's just focus on making a really great product and see how it shakes out, and not like stir the pot ourselves, because like we care about building an accessible web and making an awesome product, and that's what we've been focusing on. I mean, I still have things I'm going to be contributing to the accessibility team because I really care about the accessibility team, and I'm checking the box and logging in because I want to help make things successful. So I don't know. Like I think it's hard to say. Like, it feels huge right now, but I think sometimes, I don't feel like we're at a point now where everybody has to make this, at least personally, I don't feel like we're at a point now where we have to make this big decision of abandoning ship or totally changing course on your product and your roadmap and everything that you had planned. Like, it feels huge, but it's really only been a number of weeks ago that this all started. So I'm like, I don't know. Like, I kind of feel like let's see how it shakes out a little bit, and focus on making good products. And I think maybe the new plugin devs, if they're launching right now, they might be thinking about doing something different. If they come 6 months from now, they might do just generally what everyone has been doing the whole time, right? I don't know. What do you think, Jack? Do you think new plugin devs are going to be doing something different, or should be doing something different?
Probably not. I mean, the frustrating thing to me about all this is it's all very important to us now, and we make a big stink, and we file our cease and desists, and we go on our podcasts, and in 6 months nobody will care, and Matt will still be in charge of everything. And people who are new to developing plugins will want the free distribution, and they'll sign away whatever rights they have to and tick any boxes to get that. And I don't really see anything changing, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's hard not to get into that. Like, I hate to call it pessimism. I don't think it is pessimism. It's just kind of like acknowledging where we're at, and it's hard not to just stay in that mindset. But like Amber said, like, I'm still really motivated by the fact that WordPress is supposed to be open source and that we're trying to make the web better overall. Like, that's the vision, and we're all trying to contribute to that as much as possible. But it's sometimes hard to see the forest through the trees. Sorry, Zach, you were saying.
Oh, I'm sorry, Matt. I think that the WP Engine lawsuit that might force Automatic and WordPress.com might force Matt to revert what he's done and restore people's access and restore ACF to their rightful slug on the WordPress.org repo. I think that is kind of the best hope, in the sense that there's no other way that the plugin directory remains fair. I don't know. That is the big question mark for me, is what happens with the lawsuit? How does it shake out? Because I think that will guide how the directory feels for me personally.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's
I want
worth
to jump
noting.
into.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was just going to highlight that, we had Lewis, said, what about GitHub as a distribution for freemium? And maybe we could touch on that just real quick here. Does that feel like a good solution to people?
The hard part about that is there also has been some changes in the way that they accept plugins on .org. They're not accepting plugins on .org now that support other update models. And they specifically targeted GitHub Updater from Andy Fragan. Andy Fragan wrote an article about that, and he's been contributing to WordPress for a really long time. And said that he's all done. Like if WordPress.org isn't supportive of his free plugin with no paid options. Actually, he did launch a paid option recently, actually. But then he's like, I don't think I can contribute to this project the way I was anymore. So that used to be a really viable way, a really viable option, but now that's become less of an option as well.
I think it's possible over, I don't know, the next 3 to 6 months, we are going to see a drop in free plugins going on to .org. And I mean, sometimes you ask those questions anyway, right? Like, how much do I want to support this? We have plugins that we make available on our GitHub because we don't want to have to support them.
Yeah.
Right. And we'll tell people about them. And we'll say, oh yeah, you can, if you're using X plugin, we actually have a plugin on our GitHub that will fix the accessibility and the issues in that plugin. You can go install it, but there's literally no warranty or guarantee of support or whatever. Whereas I feel like, maybe with some of this extra drama in the community, people that never intended to monetize something might think twice before they contribute it, and they'll just be like, oh, I'll just, keep it on GitHub. Because they don't want to have to deal with that hassle. And if they also knew they were never going to monetize it. So it'd be interesting to see what those stats look like for plugins and themes.
One question I have about this whole situation is how, for acquisitions, WordPress.org installs were used as a good indicator for how much a free plugin might be worth. You would say perhaps $1 per user in a free plugin, or $2 per user. But now that the user counts are going to be unreliable, how does that affect product owners when they're going to try to sell their plugin? If you don't have your own metrics built in, if you don't collect your users, that is all just gone.
What's ironic about that is there was a bunch of WP drama around those numbers a while back, and the active install graph that showed a timeline of your growth was removed from one day to the next with no announcement whatsoever.
Unilaterally.
And then the justification for why it was removed is because those numbers aren't accurate or reliable. That was the argument that was made there. So it's kind of like, well, they never have been, but they are, because you're right, Zach. People have acquired 100% free plugins based only on the active install count alone. So I mean, who decides whether or not the numbers are valuable or not? But
what do you think, Jack?
I was just going to add regarding even releasing plugins on the repo at all. We have about a dozen free plugins that are just on GitHub, primarily because if you release it on the repo and you don't update it with every WordPress release, people get that notice that says, warning, this hasn't been tested. There's stuff that is just a few lines of code and it does the job and never needs an update. So already, like, we don't add anything new to the repo. And I know lots of other people who do the same. It would be interesting to see somebody find a way to like create a directory out of all those plugins that are on GitHub and somehow track the install counts or something, or make a standard way for us to share information about a plugin that's on GitHub.
Yep.
And I anticipate that WP Engine will, if I were WP Engine, I would try to take a leadership role in transparency and around those numbers. Yeah.
I think it's important to acknowledge a little bit of the context for folks who might not understand the nuance of that question that Zach raised. One of the issues that came up was that WP Engine had to create a mirror of .org in order to service those plugins correctly to their hosted users. That has technical implications for the numbers that are represented on WordPress.org in terms of active installs. And there are potentially, most likely, I'm not going to confirm or deny anything, but there's potentially most likely a lot of other conversations happening about other types of hosts also considering something like that, just in order to avoid the risks involved in serving your customers from WordPress.org directly. There's also been a couple different independent folks who have created their own public mirrors. I'm failing on the one that actually got a little bit of traffic recently from one developer. He built a mirror really quick after all of this happened.
Aspire Press is a bigger one. Aspire Press, was that it?
Yep. That was the second one. There was another one that came out before that.
Was it the Blog Vault guy?
Yes, the Blog Vault guy. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ash Cat or something.
Exactly. No, I'm forgetting the name of the mirror that he created. But as these things come up, it does have implications for active install count. I was curious about that, and my co-hosts were helping me understand the more technical nuances of that.
So this is a thing that we've talked about already before this, because of that active install graph going away, is trying to figure out what is the thing that we can provide of value that will get that email address and also get us plugin or like install data that we can own on our free users. I think actually Yost's new plugin, and I totally forgot what it is, but it's for gamifying your WordPress. And I'm so sorry, Yost.
Progress Planner.
Progress Planner. There we go. I'm sorry. I'm totally going to get a Slack message about that later. But Progress Planner, I think, is a really neat example of this, because they've built something out that sends emails, and people can opt in to get like email reminders. And they built that with the WordPress site as well. But that is a way that if you get the free plugin, you're like, oh yeah, of course I want this feature. And it provides value to the user, but then you get their email address and you get like the data from their WordPress website as well. So that's something that we were already thinking about. But I think if you're not thinking about that with your plugin, is like, how can you provide value that will encourage free people? And then you will then not have to worry about figuring out active install count from WordPress.org plus active install count from WP Engine plus whatever other hosts or other mirrors might be out there. Then you can just have your source of truth on the data and actually be able to track your growth and have what you need if you get to a point where you want to sell.
Real quick, Jack has been so gracious. He's actually on vacation and he's in like Rome right now, which is amazing.
I couldn't say no.
So I feel like I need to pay an invoice or something. I feel like
I need a tiramisu.
Yeah, some big gifts or whatnot for being here. We really appreciate it. But before you take off, Jack, and we're going to keep the conversation going just a little bit. But before you take off, Jack, the thing we always sign off with on this show is, what's your best advice for new product owners in light of this whole conversation? They're a brand new person who's like, I am building my business on WordPress right now, and they're like, WTF, Jack, what am I supposed to do now?
And this is an elevator pitch, so you've got like 3 sentences.
Yeah, right. I didn't prepare anything. Let's see. Well, I guess sort of to tie it into what we were saying earlier, the WordPress community is still amazing, even if the future of Automatic or .org are uncertain. So I think the best thing you can do as a product owner is make connections with other product owners. We were talking about cross-promoting create a product that helps other products work better, or integrates with other products, or extends them. And yeah, by networking with people in that way, it's a really great way to meet people, get advice, get invited on podcasts, but also get organic SEO growth and get referrals and that kind of thing. And I think there's still a lot of opportunities for new products that work like that.
Awesome. Jack, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate all you do.
Okay, thanks everybody. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you. There's a couple really good comments I want to jump in here. We asked the folks in the comments about what their best advice for product authors are as well. They also have chimed in about several of the different points that we have been highlighting. One here a while back, Alan Fuller highlights that what I was saying earlier about, like, if you install, if you get a free install from .org and then you pay and get the pro version, you could swap out the free one for the pro, and now all of a sudden you own that customer more and you have a tighter relationship. He highlighted that Freemius, the way Freemius is set up, if you use Freemius for your paid offerings, they do that. They swap out the free version for the pro automatically. So I had forgotten about that. So good call out there, Alan. Peter Ingersoll chimes in that it's bothersome to him as a customer and supporter, a meetup organizer, is the disingenuous representation of the situation from Matt Mullenweg, resulting in a lot of uncertainty and general ickiness. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that expressions out there talking about whether or not this is the case. What's ironic to me about a lot of that, or not ironic, but interesting to me, is that Matt's had multiple avenues and multiple opportunities to clarify his position. And he's basically reinstated his position at every single opportunity. He had a big interview on TechCrunch where the interviewer was actually asked a lot of these questions directly, and he restated exactly what he's been telling us the whole time. Whether it's disingenuous or whether it's just simply his position or not, at least he's consistent about it. So that's one thing. There's a good conversation going on here about what we just brought up a little bit about GitHub as a distribution or freemium model. Amber highlighted this earlier, and so several folks are chiming in about that. Corey Moss says the disadvantage of self-hosting like GitHub is, of course, the discovery aspect. Yeah, that is part of it for sure. While GitHub exists on the web, just like .org exists on the web, and you could search and it has pretty decent SEO, it doesn't rank anywhere near good enough for the WordPress specific terms compared to WordPress.org. So although I do see GitHub repos popping up here and there with some regular searches, I do think it's harder for sure.
I think it all comes down to marketing. You have to have a solid marketing strategy for your product.
Absolutely.
And it's so core because it could be an amazing product, but if people can't find it or haven't heard of it, then you're not going to get the growth that you need to be able to maintain it.
And
actually, that's another person who, sorry, real quick, that's another person who left .org was Bill Erickson. He had a couple like functionality plugins, not paid things at all, and he develops them on GitHub completely. When he left .org, he just pointed everybody to GitHub. He's like, here's where you can download my latest stuff all the time. So, sorry, Zach.
One of the things you can do when you're trying to figure out how to get around .org like changes and marketing your own plugin is to look at what other people do. What you can do is look at is what WordPress and Automatic themselves do, and they promote their own plugins at the top of the WordPress.org plugin search from inside WordPress itself. And I know that some plugins have done this, including Yoast, I believe, did this at some point, where if somebody searches for SEO, they might suggest their plugin ahead of other results if they already have a solution that matches closely. I think Jetpack also does this and modifies the search results. In the past, I would have said that was unethical. Now I think it's strategically sound. It makes sense if you are especially distributing premium plugins that aren't on .org, and you want to make sure that your other premium plugins get found that aren't on .org. Modify the search results maybe and put them in there. Let people know that you have solutions available. So when you look at that as an example, look at other people, what they're doing, how they're promoting their own plugins outside of .org to get inspired on your own strategies.
Interesting. Yeah, that is also a past WP drama issue from years ago, was when Jetpack was really overtly changing the search results and got called out on it really strongly. They did revert those changes. But now there's a new one that they do where if you have, let's say, a backup plugin installed, Jetpack offers backups. And you do a search, and that backup plugin that you have installed shows up in the search. There's a little badge that says, "Oh, you already have a backup solution," and it's Jetpack Backups. That one's an interesting one. I'm going to throw in a couple more comments about the GitHub issue one. It's a fun back and forth happening here in the comments. Stephanie Hudson, who's been a former guest and is now a stellar WP employee, she says, "I'm a GitHub noob. How would I search, find plugins that are available there?" And we have a bunch of folks being helpful. Corey is saying, "Yeah, Stephanie, that's the problem. How do you find stuff there at all?" And we also have Femi YB says, "You probably have to know what you are searching for before finding it in the GitHub repo," which is kind of what we said happens on .org as well. Like that folks are generally finding the product they're looking for anyway, and then they go to .org. You could do that with GitHub, but I will say overall, I sometimes I'm looking for something specific on GitHub, and it's super hard to find the right repo.
But then
And
I put in there that you can also search GitHub. GitHub has a repo search, and I use that a lot. Kind of like I would use the WordPress.org repo for finding integrations that already exist or code samples that already exist. You can search repos, so that is technically a possibility.
I think you have to be careful about that, though, or make sure that the zip you download is actually a built zip.
Yeah,
Like
no, you can't just install and forget about it. Yeah.
Well, no,
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
not that. I mean, like our accessibility checker plugin, we have a build script
Right.
that compiles it and turns it into a functional zip that someone can
Yeah.
use. If you were just to go to our repo and click the button that's like download zip,
download.
it would not be a functional plugin.
No, if
Yeah.
So
a
it really
hot tip for
depends on the plugin, whether it's actually going to work if you download it off.
what we do on our GitHub repos that are public, we tag the releases with versions, and then on the release tag, we also upload a compiled zip that has the built zip that doesn't need a composer installer or an npm install or anything like that.
Yeah, so it might not just be as straight as download the main branch.
Yeah.
So let's jump into best advice. We'll kick it off with a comment here from Alan Fuller. What's your best advice for new product owners who are thinking about how they're going to get distribution in general? And in light of all of this plugin directory drama, Alan Fuller says, "My best advice to new plugin developers, mentioned before, that we should build a SaaS and use I think he means nominal free plugin to integrate to WordPress and other platforms." Basically a connector of sorts. That means that connector, you still want that connector to be found on .org. And if you, for one reason or another, get restricted from .org and things like that, it's easy to promote just the connector on your own website.
It's a lot more
avoid
work.
the risk. Yeah, it doesn't avoid the risk, but I think it minimizes the risk a bit. It does make you a lot more direct to customer oriented marketing again, which continues to be a little bit of a touch point here. Like Amber said, go to wpproducttalk.com. Lots of marketing insights there.
Should we wrap up with our best advice?
Yes, that's what we're doing. Amber, you first. What's your best advice for new product owners?
So 2, 1, well, I guess the new product owner advice is what I said before, which is you need to figure out how to provide value so that you can gain email addresses if you are starting with a freemium model and using some other distribution channel than your own. And this applies equally if you're distributing off GitHub or off .org, anything other than your website. And my general best advice on this topic is that I think we should all take a breath and don't jump too rapidly to making dramatic changes in your product business based upon what has happened in the last 2 months.
That's a hot take, Amber.
Figure out, like, what you're doing to build awesome stuff. Stay the course. Don't freak out. It will be okay.
Yeah, I like it. Nice. Katie, what about you?
I've kind of already given my best advice about having multiple distribution channels. So instead, I'm going to give a really specific tip that fits with what we said earlier that we haven't covered, which is one way to own your customer data for some of your free users, which is a point that Zach made earlier, is to do, I think it was Jack that I first saw do this, and others like Jason, probably Zach as well, do it now, is that when you have your link to your free plugin on your own website, even if it goes to wordpress.org, collect their email address first. And that way, when you are the one that's referring those free users from your own site, you get their details and you can send them marketing emails and so on, as per GDPR and all that, of course. So you can still own some of the data for free users.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Nice.
regardless of whether or not you have a plugin on .org, always have it also on your website. We have some plugins on WordPress.org, and we offer them for sale for free on our website. And we actually point the zip directly to WordPress.org zip file. So when we update it on .org, it updates on our website. So that's our way of allowing people to go through our checkout flow and opt into our newsletter and all that stuff, while also maintaining some control over the customer interaction. My best advice is also, well, it's not my best advice, it's some advice. And another way to get people to your website that I historically have thought is terrible, and why would anybody do this, is to remove your changelog and have a link to your website. That is one of the huge things that I always look for whenever WordPress plugin is updated. What's with the changelog? I open the changelog. It's all right there in WordPress. It's so handy. If that were going to a website, that would at least get me to your website if you're the person who's doing this. So that's an option that I hadn't really considered before, but I think it might be another way to get people to realize that you are a brand and establish a relationship with your customers.
Nice. Appreciate it. Even if it's just your B- advice, that's fine. Yeah, for me, mine is learn marketing deeply. That has been a theme for us for a long time already. And it's only gotten additionally difficult and more important and necessary for any product owners to be expert marketers. It's gonna, at this stage, even if you do host on .org, it's really important that you know how to get your brand in front of people regardless. And if there is any risk to you and your product on .org in any way, if you're already really strong on the marketing front, then it minimizes the impact if you do get restricted from .org. So learn marketing deeply, as they say. Nice. Man, this was a great discussion. We definitely have gone beyond our normal time limit, and it was great. All the comments here today. Everyone, thanks so much for being here. We are going to sign off. We do have an episode coming up next week. I have to check
I've
notes.
got it.
checking notes.
All right.
Okay,
So
good.
tune in next week for our next episode, From Zero to SEO Hero, Building Organic Growth for WordPress Products with Alex Moss.
That's a perfect topic on the tail end of this. That's what everybody needs to work on. So nice.
Do you want to give our special thanks?
Oh man, my brain.
It's in the notes.
Special thanks to Post Status for being our green room.